Eh. Page 60 to 90 of Things Fall Apart. All right, so as we left the action yesterday, Okonkwo just killed Ikamafuna because it's kind of messed up. Because, as it said on page 61, dazed with fear, Okonkwo drew his machete and cut him down. He was afraid of being thought weak. Now, this is one of those things that where he's going against the goddesses, and he's going against the goddess, and he's going against the pronouncement of the oracle because he's trying to better himself, right? This is an instance where he's thinking more of himself than the culture as a whole. As soon as his father walked in that night, Nwoi knew that Ikamafuna had been killed, and something seemed to give way inside of him, snapping like a tighten bolt. He did not cry, he just hung limp. He had the same kind of feeling not long ago during the last harvest season. And so it was during that time, day at the farm during the last harvest, that Nwoi had felt for the first time a snapping inside him like the one I felt. In my lecture yesterday, I talked about how Chinua Achebe presents both positive and aspects of evil culture, and this is one of the negative ones, right? And so not everybody thinks it's negative, but there are even people within the culture who are questioning things, right? You know, the title of the book is Things Fall Apart, and one of the way things start to fall apart is by the society itself, right? It's this is way well before the European missionaries show up, right? And people are already questioning the culture and kind of starting to separate, and things are starting to fall apart already. Um, they were walking, returning with baskets of yams from a distant farm. A sudden hush had fallen on the women. Sorry, let me start over. And this is on the bottom of 61. Returning home with baskets of yams from a distant farm across the stream when they heard the voice of a crying infant in the thick forest. A sudden hush had fallen on the women who had been talking, and they quickened their steps. Nwai had heard the twins were put in earthenware pots and thrown away in the forest, but he had never yet come across them. A vague chill descended on him, and his head had seemed to swell like a solitary walker at night who passes an evil spirit on the way. Then something had given way inside him. It descended on him again, this feeling, when his father walked in that night after killing Ikamafuna. Now, Okonkwo doesn't get along with Dad, right? Dad is not letting him hear stories that have more positive cultural significance from people like his mother and people like Ikamafuna before this. And so Nawoya, I think, is starting to turn away from his culture. Now, when Okonkwo gets back, he's devastated by this, right? Inwardly, he feels really, really bad at it. Okonkwo did not taste any food for 2 days after the death of Ikamafuna. He drank palm wine from morning till night, and his eyes were red and fierce like the eyes of a rat when it was caught by the tail and dashed on the floor. He felt like a drunken giant walking with limbs of a mosquito. Now and then, a cold shiver descended on his head and spread down his body. Now, Izinma, as we talked about earlier, can read her father, right? And she goes in and she understands what happens and she doesn't make Okonkwo explain it and she just moves things along. You've not eaten in 2 days, said his father, Izinma, when she brought the food to him. You must finish this. She sat down and stretched her legs in front of her. Okonkwo ate the food absent-mindedly. She should have been a boy, he thought, as he had looked with a 10-year-old daughter. He passed her a piece of fish. If she had been a boy, like Nawoya, Nawoya could grow. If Nawoya could read his father the way Azinma can read her father, Nawoya would be much better off, right? But because Nawoya does not understand his father, he can't. Going on the bottom of 64, Azinma took the dish in one hand and the empty water bowl in the other and went back to her mother's hut. She should have been a boy, Okonkwo said to himself. His mind went back to Ikamafuna and he shivered. If he could only find some work to do, he would be able to forget it. But it was the season of rest between the harvest and the next planting. On 65, when did you become a shivering old woman? Okonkwo asked himself. You, who are known in all 9 villages for your valor in war, how can a man who has killed 5 men in battle fall to pieces because he added a boy to their number? Okonkwo, you become a woman indeed. So even the fact that he's acknowledging that he is falling to pieces because he killed this kid who called him dad, who called him father, right? Now, Obierka comes and talks to him. Obierka is one of Okonkwo's good friends, and Obierka is as highly respected in the community and he has earned the titles that Okonkwo does. He's very much equal to Okonkwo, except Obierka can talk. And Obierka is not entirely focused on Obierka. Yes, my daughter's coming today, and I hope we will cinch the matter of a bride price. I want you to be there. Now, they talk through this kind of wedding thing, and on 66, they're talking about Nawoya, right? And Okonkwo is disappointed and concerned that Nawoya is not growing up to be the masculine dude that Okonkwo wants him to be. Too much grandfather, Obiurka thought, but he did not say it. The same thought also came to Okonkwo's mind, but he had learned long ago how to lay that ghost. Whenever the thought of his father's weakness and failure troubled him, he expelled it by thinking about his own strength and success, and he did so now. His mind went to his latest show of manliness. I cannot understand why you refused to come with us and kill that boy, he asked Obiurka. Because I did not want to, Obiurka replied sharply. I had something better to do. Now in 67, Obiurka kind of goes off on Okonkwo here, and he says, You know very well, Okonkwo, that I'm not afraid of blood, and if anyone tells you that I am, he's telling a lie. And let me tell you one other thing, my friend. If I were you, I would have stayed home. What you have done will not please the earth. It is the kind of action for which goddesses wipe out whole families. And if we know what happens at the end of the book, I'm not saying it's directly tied to this, but it does seem to be a coincidence. Now, Obiurka then starts to talk about some happenings in the neighboring villages, right? There are 9 neighboring villages, and, in Heart of Darkness, there was no culture of any people in Africa portrayed at all. It was just kind of large groups of people. But here, even within the different 9 villages, each village has different customs that seem foreign and strange, right? Even though they are all of the Igbo people, they all do things differently, right? Showing how much differentiation there is among all these different groups of people. Going on a little bit to go to 72, 73. So they have this wedding, right? And we see this big ceremony and how things go, and offerings are brought. On the bottom of 73, as the men ate and drank palm wine, they talked about the customs of their neighbors. It was only this morning, said Obiurka, that Okonkwo and I were talking about Abama and Anita, where titled men climb trees and pound fufu for their wives. All their customs are upside down. They do not decide bride prices as we do with sticks. They haggle and bargain as if we're buying a cow or goat in the market. That's very bad, said Obiurka's eldest brother. But what is good is in one place is bad in another place. That's a real good sentence there. What's good in one place is bad in another place. The suitor, it is like the story of the white men who, they say, are white like this piece of chalk, said Obiurka. He held up a piece of chalk which every man kept in his obi, and with which his guests drew lines on the floor before they ate the kola nuts. And these white men, they say, have no toes. Have you never seen them? Asked Machi. Have you? Asked Obiurka. One of them passes here frequently, said Machi. His name is Amadi. Those who knew Amadi laughed. He was a leper, and the polite name for leprosy was the white skin. Right? Now, so they're hearing rumors of white people, right? But they do not believe them. Okay, going on, a couple more things. Page 76, 77, we kind of get more of Azinma's story here and how central she is to this story. On 76, Azinma's dying, came her voice, and all the tragedy and sorrow of her life were packed into those words. Azinma was an only child in the center of her mother's world. Very often it was Azinma who decided what food her mother should prepare. Akwifi gave her such delicacies as eggs, which children were rarely allowed to eat because such food tempted them to steal. So her mother gives her eggs to eat. Her mom lets Azinma call her by her real name. Azinma did not call her mother like all children. She called her by her name, Akwifi, as her father and other grown-up people did. There was something in it like a companionship of equals, which was strengthened by such little conspiracies as eating eggs in the bedroom. Akwifi had suffered a great deal in her life. She had borne 10 children, and 9 of them had died in infancy, usually before the age of 3. That's a lot, right? I just can't even wrap my head around that. And so initially she started to name them nice names that she wanted, and then she kind of started to get cynical, naming them things like Death I Implore You. She died in the 11th month, and 2 others after that. Akwifi became defiant and called her next children Anwuma, Death May Please Himself. And he did. So the fact that Azinma has made it to age 10 is really important, and mom really cares about her a lot, so much that she treats her almost like an equal. As I said, right, she doesn't make her call her mother, she calls mom by her own name and things like that. Then we get the idea of the Agbanji child, right? And Azinma is one of these, according to Okonkwo and to the medicine man. And to stop this, so this is a cycle of death, right? And she's had the previous 9 children have all died. And the idea of the Agbanji child is the child keeps coming back, right? And so it's the same child being born over and over and over. To stop this, they need to find this small stone that was buried by the Agbanji child, right? And so the medicine man in the village tells her to find it, and so they follow her around. But it looked real enough. It was a smooth pebble wrapped in a dirty rag. The man who dug it up was named Okagbu, who was famous in all the clan for his knowledge in these matters. Azinma had not wanted to cooperate with him at first, but that was only to be expected. No Agbanji would yield her secrets easily, and most of them never did because they died too young before they could be asked questions. So they wander and they wander, and finally they find it, right? And once they find it, then they feel like she's going to live and that she's going to survive. Okay. Now going on near to the end of this, chapter 10, and that's about all I wanted to get to for this reading. So they find it, and then that they think that she's going to stay. Shortly after this, Azimah is going to get really sick, right? And near the end on page 86, bring a low stool for Azimah and a thick mat. He took down the pot from the fire and placed it in front of the stool. Then he roused Azimah and placed her on the stool astride the steaming pot. The thick mat was thrown over both. Azimah struggled to escape from the choking and overpowering steam, but she was held down. She started to cry. When the mat was at last removed, she was drenched with perspiration. No, then she goes to sleep, right? Now, shortly after this, so we get, in this next scene, we get a court, right? Now, we talked about in Heart of Darkness what the European people claimed that they were doing with bringing civilization. And what they find here is the people in the evil village have everything the European people do in terms of structure, social structures, a lot of them anyway, right? They have their own court, they have their own marriage system, they have a lot of the things that the European people said they were bringing. And we get to see how that court and justicism plays out on page 90 and 91 and 92 up through 94. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you for your attention, and I will see you tomorrow.